Hey traders, I want to give you another weekly market update. Let's go straight into it. Do not place a trade based on what you're seeing in this video today, because trading is risky and it can cause substantial financial loss. There are so many areas you need to become good at to become a good trader. Emotional mastery, chart reading, trading systems, money and trade management. So this video is just educational only to help you become a much better trader. Alright, market update time. So let's get straight into this one. I'm going to be looking at all the indices. I'm going to show you what I see on silver, show you what I see on gold, and all that down home country goodness. All right, so let me go through, and I want to go through the monthly charts, weekly charts, daily charts as well too, and obviously show you what's happening through there. And plus also at the end of this video, I'll have a look at things like Apple, Google, and those stocks, and just show you what I see with those as well too. Anyway, let's actually start with the Dow Jones, and with the Dow Jones, we'll start with this chart, with the monthly chart, and I want to show you something here on this monthly chart here, which is really interesting to see. Now remember, this is every single one of these bars takes a month to form. You know what I mean? So looking at these monthly bars and looking at these bars, it takes, once again, it takes a month to form these bars. And so what's interesting about that is this, is that if you see these points through here, that means that point through there, or let me just bring up my trend line. You can see that high through there, that high through there, that high through there, and you can see this high through here. Those all areas are obviously an area of where the market's rejected at. You can see the market completely rejected up these highs through here, and it came down and it closed through there. Now, as you can see, is that if let me just bring this up. Let me bring up, say, a 3 here, so I can take everything up the screen and just bring up trend lines for this chart here. So we have this ultimate high point up here, ultimate high point up there. And the next point down, we actually have this point through here, which is actually, you can see where the Dow Jones actually rejected it. And you can see that we also have, this point up through here as well too. So you can see we had this double, now remember, this is a monthly chart, double resistance, rejected off there, rejected off there. We came all the way down, bit of a double bottom, slight high, and ran right back up and rejected off that and came back down. And as you can see, it came back down and we had this high point up through here. Now again, remember, that's a weekly rejection point, a monthly rejection point off that level through there. And you can see how the markets came down through here. And once this opened up, you can see it ran up, rejected it and came back down. So now you have another high point up through here. So why am I showing this for? Because you can see that if you look at this monthly chart, this monthly bar chart here, you can actually see that if the market, that this is actually a very weak sign on a monthly basis. Remember, this is a monthly chart. So by looking at this chart here, if indeed we do have a more of a bullish start to May, where the market opens up, I don't think it's going to do that, but you know, who knows what's going to happen, right? But if we do have a market that opens and then we start to get like a bit of a rally to the high side, we're gonna start getting into all these other areas of resistance where the market's had a problem closing above. Now, if the market closed above here, then that'll be a different sign. Why? Because the market's now going to find support and maybe even run back up to the highs up here, and maybe even create new highs. But that's not what I'm seeing on this monthly chart. The monthly chart failed. Let me actually change this monthly chart to, say, a candlestick chart, so you can really see that what I'm talking about there. You can see how this monthly chart, this bar here, actually failed to close above here. So that's actually quite a weak sign, and we actually closed right there. This is where the closing bar was. So if we do get a run up through here, we have this resistance here and a resistance here, and if it does get there, that's where I believe it's likely to fail, and then we're likely to see some significant movement to the downside, and maybe even we start to take out this whole up month through here, because that you can see this is where it's actually struggling. Now, if we go back in time to see what actually was similar to this bar here, you can actually see what happened on the monthly chart. Last time we had a big spike up and then a rejection bar. So it came up and sort of like a spinning top. little spinning top through there. The market actually, you see this is where the bar was, this is where the wick was, this is where the monthly open and close was through there, and then you can see we actually had a monthly spike down, came up and closed there, and then we had this move to the downside. But you can see here, right, that we actually have so much more wick on this candle here, and just a little wick to the bottom. This is actually a lot bearish signal than this here. So once again, I expect the market to run up to this resistance, hold these areas of resistance, because you see this market's had problems through here, and then if we do get a little run up, we're likely to hit that resistance, and then we're likely to see a significant move to the downside, and maybe even come back down as before, come back down and take out this whole bullish bar through here. Now that's what I see on the monthly charts. And if you go to the monthly charts and you start to see those pictures through there. Now again, I'm not oblivious to me saying I'm bearish on this market, okay? Now why I'm saying that is because if we look at this chart, and we see what's actually happening here, if it did close all the way up through here, once again, now we have all these areas through here, these whole areas through here to be what? To be support. So once again, if the market did close up here, guys, if the market did close all the way up through here, then yes, we got a rejection, but yes, that tells me we're likely to come back down, hold support, and then maybe race back up to new highs. But it didn't do that, did it? No, it closed below all these major areas of resistance in the past. This one here, all these these monthly highs that are now resistance to the market. So that's why it's very important to keep an eye on that. That tells me, guys, once again, we're likely to see more downside to come. So again, that's what the monthly chart is saying. Let's go to the weekly chart now, and let me show you what I see on the weekly chart. Now, for a long time, this is the weekly chart now of the Dow Jones. Now, for a long time now, guys, I've been saying that this market has continued to make higher highs all the way up. Now, let me just do this here line. So you can see this higher, all the way up, higher through there. And I called last week. I said, okay, we're now getting ready for more downside because where the bar was, so on and so forth. And then we had this lower close through here. That was the very first lower close. Okay, listen to what I'm saying here. This is the very first lower close on the weekly bar than we've seen in the past. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to point out to you. The second thing I want to say is that we've actually closed below. We could not hold above this area of this resistance area here on the weekly chart. Can you see that there? So we have all this resistance up here on this weekly chart. So that shows me on the weekly chart that if we have this area through here of resistance, plus if you're looking at last week's bar, we have this whole area where the market actually found a lot of support through there. You can see how that, if I draw a trend line through, you can see how the market ran down, found support and break up, right? So we actually have this area of support, this area here of support, and we closed here. So that tells me that if we do get a little run to the high side, where's my, trying to get my, you probably can see I'm trying to get my trend line drawing tools here. So that tells me, guys, if we do get a little run to the high side, we're going to have this area here that was support. Remember, this is a weekly chart, was support. Now it's going to be resistance, or at least it runs back up through here. This whole area through here, which was this high through here, and this major here through here, is likely to be resistance, and then boom, down we go. And this might be an acceleration move to the downside. So that's the first thing I want to see there. We're actually closing below all those low weekly bars. And again, this is not me saying I'm bearish because I think the market's going to go down. No, I'm saying, guys, look at what the chart's saying through here, okay? So, and the next thing I want to point out above all that is that we are still really extended to the high side, and we're due for more pullback anyway. As I've been saying for quite some time, is that if the market's been running up, let's had this strong buyers, and now we had this sort of weaker buyer period through here, that tells me we're likely to start getting this sort of action. So that whole sell in May and go away, I think that's likely to start happening based on what we're seeing here. Because you go to any chart, guys, you go to any chart and see when we had this big strong up, and then we had this weaker buyer period through here, you see the market just start to come down really, really quickly. You know, like look at this period through here. Now this is a different example. You see this period through here, the market runs up, and then it slowly runs up. See that through there? And then what happened? Bam, out of nowhere, we had a big down week. So we're at least due for a big down week anyway. Now, I'm not saying the market's going to crash because we don't know when that's going to happen. We do know it's going to happen, but we don't know when it's going to happen. But that's what we can actually see through there. Okay, so you can see this whole resistance here, and now we're likely to start having that pullback here. Okay. So remember, this is what we're seeing on the Dow Jones. So that's now the weekly charts. So now let's actually build a case here. Monthly charts, bearish, right? Monthly charts, what do we see on the monthly charts? It's very, very bearish over here on these monthly charts through here. Weekly charts, overextended, everything that's bearish. Now let's go have a look at the daily charts with all my funky dunky indicators, which mean only about 10% of my trading anyway. Because everything else is just charts, as you can see. That's the thing I want you to understand, guys, is that charts is the best thing you can understand. So looking at the chart formation, what do we actually see? Well, let's actually read the chart for what it is first, and I'll show you a bit more here. So we remember I said in a few videos ago that this market just seems to be pushing higher highs, higher highs, higher highs. Look at this here, higher high through here, higher high through here. The market pushed up, it gave a higher high, and then what's this here? Lower high. This also has a lower peak. So now it's starting to form a small lower peak, lower trough. What is that? That's completely different than what we see in this whole up move. We've had a higher trough, 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 lower peak, now lower trough. This is going to form a lower trough. So if it runs up through here, guess what's likely to form through here? Resistance. Right? So we can actually see that this market where it is right now is that this market is here, and you can see this whole, it found support here. And if you look at this daily chart, it found support once, twice, three, held support, ran up, came back down, held support another day through here, another day, and actually another day, and then broke through. So we actually have, and the reason why this is significant, because it actually, you can see it held this level through here once, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, almost 6, 7 days, and then broke through and closed below, and now we're down through here. Now, why is that significant? Because if this market runs up through here, if it's had that much resistance, that much support, what's that likely to be? Resistance. If it does do that, then guess what's likely to happen? The down move starts to happen. Makes sense? And on top of all that, guys, we are now starting to get some decent moves in the volume move. Look at that volume spike through there. That volume spike is almost bigger than anything else we've seen. Than anything else we've actually seen basically since this market started to run up. And if I draw a little trend line through here, you can see how this volume spike is actually saying something. And of course, what we're seeing on the indicators is obviously we're getting our indicators very, very bearish. So you can see the market's coming down through here. We're getting bearishness on our RSI. The stochastics rolling over as well too, and the market's starting to roll over as well too. So on our Dow Jones, what do we see? Let me actually just do this here. So we see monthly chart. This is the monthly chart through here. Monthly chart, weak, total weakness. If it runs up through here, likely to find a lot of resistance, and then we're likely to get hammered by the sellers. If it does get a run up, we're just likely to start going straight down. Weekly chart, what's actually happening? Weekly chart, what's actually happening? We're still really extended. We're now getting some selling bars to the downside, rejecting a whole bunch of area resistance. That equals more downside to come. And obviously looking at the Dow Jones 30, what I was saying before about the volume, indicator's still rolling over, but now it's starting to form a small little low peak, lower trough. We're now starting to form a bit more of a downtrend. Things are changing now, and this is not the same than what we're seeing moving through to the high side. Make sense? So that's what I see on the Dow. That's what I see on the Dow Jones. Now let's go look at the S&P, and I'll move a bit quicker now since we're looking at the S&P. But S&P is the monthly chart is very similar to what I was saying on the Dow Jones chart. We actually can see that the S&P actually had all these areas of resistance up the top here. We even have this area through here where the market actually had a lot of resistance up here, and you can see this monthly chart. So that tells me, guys, and that through there, and yeah, that's basically it. So that tells me, guys, is that you can see how it closed through there. So this market runs up through here, little run up to the high side. This is likely to be sold in through here, and then down we go. Same for the weekly charts. Weekly charts, guys, what do we see on the weekly charts? Same thing, a nice bearish move, but we're still really, really extended, and we totally rejected this whole point up through here. So even if we do get a little rise to the weekly chart on this rise to the high side, it's likely to be sold into, and we're likely to come straight down, and we're likely to get some significant movement on the downside. Continuing what I said from last week, and the same for the daily chart as well too. So very similar to the Dow Jones. That's the reason why I'm going through that a bit quicker, guys. Okay, so that's what I see on the S&P. Now let's go look at the other markets, such as the Russell. Okay, let's look at the Russell. Now, what do we see on the Russell? Now, the Russell is obviously a bit different. So what do we actually see here on the Russell? Well, you can see how the Russell's been running up, and now we're starting to get this sort of action on the downside, where the market's actually rejecting that point through there, which has been knocking this down, lower highs through here. Got this lower peak through there, and now it's likely to form another lower peak through there, and again start to see a bit more downside to come on that monthly charts. Now the weekly charts is where it definitely is really interesting for me. This is the weekly chart through here. And on the weekly chart, what do we see? Well, we can see here on the weekly chart, I'm telling you now, guys, you watch it. This Russell's going to get hammered. This Russell is absolutely going to get pummeled. This market's been running up. It's had these strong buys, and we've had this weaker buy period through here. It's now hit this resistance through here, had this weaker buy period through here. This thing is about to get pummeled, absolutely pummeled. And you can see through there, and obviously looking at the... and obviously we can see that that's what's happening through on the weekly chart. This is on the daily chart, and we're starting to see obviously divergence on our stochastics once again. Our RSI is still pointing down. So all in all, guys, those weekly charts are still saying for me, guys, you know, selling may and go away is definitely like to happen through there. Now the one that I've obviously kept for last for a reason is the Nasdaq. Now the Nasdaq is obviously leading the way on the downside, because the Nasdaq is obviously having problems. The Nasdaq actually had this high point up through here. Nasdaq couldn't even get to its highs, even though Nasdaq's got most of the largest companies in America in it, such as Apple, Google, Facebook, or Amazon. All these things, it could not break above it, right? So you can see through here that we had this high point through here, and we also have. Basically that's the high point through, and you can see how we actually had a lower close through there. So let me just delete that. This is on the monthly chart, remember, guys, too. So we actually have this lower close, resistance through here. So we're close through here. Again, if we get a little run to the high side, this whole area through here, guys, is likely to reject it, and we're likely to see some move down. And guys, Nasdaq is the bearish out of all of them. So I'm expecting at the end of May, I'm expecting something like that to happen. I might be crazy, but by the end of May, guys, I'm expecting this to be down. I'm expecting this to be down, you know, at least by to be down a lot. Probably this area through here, 440, 450, somewhere around there, or they're around about the 440, 430 mark. Probably even down towards these lows. Now, why do I say that? Because obviously that's the monthly chart. But let's look at the overall weekly chart. But I want to show you the line chart here, because I want to be able to show you basically what is going on through here. And the line chart, guys, you can see lower peak, trough, lower trough. We're now forming this another lower peak. What comes next? Well, it's now changing trend, right? So what comes next is now another lower trough. And so that's where I'm saying, that's where I believe we're likely to start getting some more downward movement. And of course, if you look at the weekly chart on the Nasdaq, weekly chart, Nasdaq, open, highlight, close, bar chart, you can actually see, let me actually take this trend line off. You actually can see that this market has actually, the weekly chart has actually broken below this level through here. Now this is where guys, as I said before, it's like I really want you to be able to focus on reading the charts. Focus on reading the charts, because the charts are gonna basically set you free. We can see that we actually have this resistance line through here. We can see that basically that it really had a lot of problems through there. But now let's remember, this is a weekly chart, guys, okay? So now I want you to have a look at the couple of areas of this sort of weekly resistance. So we can see that we actually had, and where we are right now, we had this whole area through here as well too. So you can see on this Nasdaq chart as well too, that we actually had this resistance through here. The market broke up, found support, continued up, and then now it's actually rejected through here, rejected, closed above it, closed back below it, rejected. You can see now I rejected it again. And you actually can see, guys, remember I've been saying about the Dow Jones and the S&P. Now the Dow Jones and the S&P basically they are there right now, all right? Remember saying before on the Dow Jones S&P that I'm expecting the market to rally up into the areas of resistance and then go back down. Well, that's exactly what the Nasdaq has done. Because remember what I said before, right? The Dow Jones and the S&P have had a big up bar and then like a small little close bar like that. And I said there's a whole bunch of areas of resistance up through here from previous weeks. So I'm expecting the market to run up and then come back down. Well, that's exactly what happened here, right? You can see the market open, it came up, hit resistance, came back down. So that's exactly what actually happened to the Nasdaq, but it's already 1 week ahead of what's actually happening. Now the Nasdaq, what do I see on the Nasdaq? Well, if the Nasdaq opens through here and it rallies up into this level through here, this is likely to be resistance, and then bam, down we go again. We are likely to have a sell in May and go away month, guys. You can see this on the Nasdaq there as well too. And of course, also if you look at the daily charts as well too, guys, look at that towering volume. Selling volume all the way up. We're now getting some serious volume coming into this. That's showing a turning point, guys. We are now getting a turning point in the markets. Yes, the RSI is going down. Yes, the stochastic's going down. We may get a little move to the high side for a couple of days, and then bam, you watch this thing. This thing is about to get pummeled on the downside. So that's what I do see there, guys. It's where it is right now. And yeah, guys, I actually see a lot more downside to come on the Nasdaq. So there we go with all the indices, guys. We can see that the market's really getting pummeled, really getting weak through there. I want to run through just a few stocks with you that so for example, like Google. Google itself, guys, is very weak. You can see how this market has been running off through here. Yes, we may, as I said before, yes, we may get a little run to the high side, but I think overall Google is likely to get it's likely to continue following through on this downside. And the reason why I say that is because if you look overall on this monthly chart, we've made this major double top and now selling off through here. So yes, we may get a little short-term rally, but I think we're likely to start heading back down and having a lot more movement on the downside when it comes to Google. Let's actually see even Apple, guys. Apple. Even Apple's obviously continued weak. And now, guys, when I say about reading charts, and charts is obviously the best thing to look at. If you look at this weekly chart, I was saying for a while that Apple's actually looking really weak. I've actually been saying that for a while. Why? We've had this major head and shoulder formation. We've had this whole areas of support. The markets ran back down. Markets ran back up, and now we're rejecting at this point through here. You can see that this whole area through here on that whole area through there, where I've just done that circle, that whole area through there was indeed a whole area of resistance. So that's what we can see through there. So yeah, that's what I do see on Apple and even stocks like, if we bring up stocks like we can see things like so let's have a look at things like, say, even IBM as well too. IBM, you can see on a weekly chart the reason why IBM totally rejected where it is right now. And so IBM is actually really weak in my point of view. You can see it ran up, closed this gap, and now comes straight back down. Yeah, so there's a lot of stocks now that are obviously really weak, and that are that are definitely man, I can't talk this morning. that are definitely weak through there. So anyway, overall markets, guys, are really weak, as you can see. We can see what's happening through there. Now let me show you what I'm seeing on the silver market and gold market. But I'll show you the ETF. So firstly, I want to show you gold, obviously GLD, and I'll show you that. Let me actually go to this chart through here, and this will be the weekly chart. You can see on this weekly chart that gold is actually getting to its almost highs up the top here. So if I go to let's bring up the monthly chart. If I go to the monthly chart and I show the highs, you can see that this high point up through here was a resistance, but we also definitely have this whole area up through here is also a ton of resistance up through here as well too. So I actually think GLD or gold is actually likely to start falling under a little bit of pressure here, where the market's running up and it's continued to run up, and you can see what's happened through here, right? You can see this whole support through here. Remember saying before about, you know, where the market's likely to find, you know, where the market's likely to find a bit of support. We can see this whole resistance through here. It closed, it came down, found support, and now just took straight off on this monthly chart. So I'm expecting the market to run up through here and maybe just blast straight through the way gold is gone. Maybe it does do that, but it doesn't actually look that strong to me where it is right now. So, but again, guys, gold is definitely starting to explode out. Gold definitely had a breakaway gap through here as well too. So maybe gold is just going to blast straight through these areas of resistance and just keep going up. But yeah, it's definitely had a breather for a while, and now it's breaking out again. So maybe gold just goes limit up, limit up, limit up. And then also silver as well too. Silver, I was looking at silver just recently, which is the SLV ETF, and I was seeing that obviously the market gapped up again as well too, had to continue to run up. This thing is just going vertical to the high side, and it's been running up for quite some time. It's actually also hit this area of resistance up top, at the top here, which is that weekly resistance. That was actually, I'm going to bring up that chart again. This was actually the weekly resistance up the top here. You can see how the market broke past this area here, and now we just had just a couple of week move to the high side, and it's now at this area of resistance. So for me, guys, especially silver, I really like silver for some reason. I don't know why, but I like silver more than gold. I'm looking for a pullback on silver. I'm looking for a nice decent pullback through here, get the stochastics down the bottom here, and then, you know, and then ride it up as well too. So I'm definitely feeling like SLV or silver is getting a bit toppy here, and then we're likely to get a pullback. But again, what's happening in the economy right now, we may just get limit up, limit up, limit up, and it might just continue going up, 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 and up from here. So that's what I do say, guys, and that's what I do say by looking at the markets and by what's actually happening in the markets right now. So there we are, guys. I hope you guys have a great week. As you can tell, I'm not doing these market updates every single week now, or every single day. I'm trying to keep maybe once or twice a week. But you know, when I do these videos, I'm trying to keep them intensive and extensive, and trying to help you out with that. But overall, guys, we are getting weakness on the downside, and all the indices are really, really weak. So that whole sell in May and go away might just happen, and we might just see a lot more. Actually, I'm actually saying that this May here, it's going to be quite deadly. Hey, it's John Howell here, and thanks so much for watching my video. You see, I'm putting out daily videos and education on helping you learning the art of successful trading. So click on the subscribe button to keep up to date with every video I do. Also, check out my story video, $250,000 in debt, cancer, overweight, family passing away, lived on the streets, and more, and how I overcome it and now thriving through my life. This is here to motivate you, so click on that image to watch my video. And lastly, if you're struggling with your trading, then you need to see my latest webinar where I'm sharing with you an amazing strategy that allows you to generate an income without getting the direction right. So click on that image on this page to register for my next free webinar. This is John Howell here. Remember, success can be yours if you go claim it. So step up, take massive action, and face your fears today.